So, the venerable Call of Duty franchise has finally birthed its latest offspring into the universe with Infinite Warfare. Is it any good? Or has it finally lost relevance as everyone was been predicting for so long? Let's find out. When Call of Duty debuted in 2003 from developer Infinity Ward, it was based around World War II conflicts. Over the next 10 or so years, we saw it range all the way through from Vietnam, the Cold War, and into the future. Around the time that Advanced Warfare dropped, the community started to complain that it was becoming staid and tired and becoming indistinguishable from every other futuristic action shooter out there, such as Titanfall. Subsequently, there's been a strong demand for a return to the classic shooter with the World War II or World War I motif. And interestingly, this year, Battlefront has debuted a World War I based shooter. A lot of people were extremely disappointed with Infinite Warfare for going to the future once again. This left the fanbase screaming for blood, especially as the new game came out bundled with a remaster of an old game, but which was only available as long as you bought an expensive pack. Would I like to see Call of Duty return to the old games? Absolutely, I think it's time. We've had a number of console upgrades and evolutions, and it's really time to see a return to those classic stories of comradeship and combat. I think it would be great. However, I have to say I do quite like Infinite Warfare as well. It definitely has some pluses. It's got an extraordinary storyline, and we'll touch on that a bit in a moment. But I think what they could perhaps do is perhaps alternate from year to year. Why not do something set in the past, next year do something in the future, and go back and forth between them, and that way we get some variety at least. And if people didn't like one option, well, they could wait till next year and have it come around with an older option. Alternatively, and I know I'd probably be taken out and shot for this, but maybe it's time that the franchise owners gave the franchise a little bit of a rest. Do we really need a new Call of Duty game every year? Just make a really good Call of Duty game. You know, give us a couple of years and then release a really excellent Call of Duty game again when we're excited for it and waiting and passionate for it again. That wouldn't be a bad thing. So the storyline for the new game is that Earth has mined out all its resources, it's running out of things, it's overpopulated, and it's been getting a lot of its resources from the colonies off-world. And a bunch of rebels have taken over and decided, we're not going to take that anymore, we're going to oppose you. And they band together with all their ships and attack Earth. Bombing Earth back into the Stone Age, they just narrowly avoid destroying everything. And the one lone ship escapes, and it's up to you to fight them and create resistance. Now, I don't know if I'm showing my age here, but that's basically the plot to Battlestar Galactica. Okay, the Cylons attack Caprica, wipe out everything, the leftover people flee in the ships, and then they sort of flee and fight and oppose them looking for a new home. Same thing. Is it okay that they ripped the plot off? Yeah, it's fine. It'll appeal to people with some nostalgia for the series, I guess. The storyline, though, for the game is really well written. They're really trying to make you care about the characters, and there's obviously a message running underneath about the burden of command and sacrifice and what that means. So, without trying to spoil things here, though, it's a real kicker when you lose some of the characters you actually care about. It's pretty tough. But they're excellent. One slight niggle I have to criticise a little bit is the bad guy. The stunt casting of Kit Harington from Game of Thrones doesn't really work. I like him as Jon Snow. I think he's a good actor, but he really doesn't work as a bad guy here. He has very little to do. He's barely in the game. You don't really interact with him much, and he just occasionally pops up to spout that he's going to kill you all. Other than that, I don't really see the point. He's not very menacing. He's not very threatening. You kind of go, why is the SDF running around led by this little kid? Because he seems a lot younger than a lot of the other characters. So, that didn't really work for me. Graphically, the game looks amazing. These games just get better and better and better. They look more and more like interactive movies now as time goes on. There's still the interactive quick-time events, and that's okay. I actually found these were quite good in this one. In Advanced Warfare, sometimes you were left going, what's happening? I don't know, and by the time you realised to click a particular button, you got killed and had to redo it again, and that was a source of frustration. But these are quite good. And there's some in particular. that I thought will really stand out. There's one where you have to hold on the chest of a wounded comrade, and it requires you to push both the thumbsticks. And I thought that was ingenious. That was a really interesting way of tying you to that scene and sort of putting you in the moment. Stylistically, all the locations look fantastic. The ships look great. There is a bit of reuse of assets throughout the game, and you do feel a familiarity moving through certain corridors sometimes as if you've been across there before, or certain rooms have similar layouts. It's not really a great problem. Everything looks great, so that's fine, and I guess it gives you a consistency across various vessels. I mean, if you've gone on an SDF ship, you would expect a similar layout, similar look. They're not going to customize everything, I guess. There's a good range of locations. It's pretty neat going to different missions on different planets. And the addition of side missions that you could choose in any sort of order, I think, was excellent as well. COD's usually very linear. You normally go through from beginning to end. This was quite good. If you picked the yellow missions, you could probably power through the main storyline pretty quickly, but there's side missions with dogfighting and infiltrating and things like that. And they were excellent. Some of the spacewalking sequences are really good as well. The grappling hook really comes in handy, and there's a range of quite creative kills, pulling in guys and ripping their helmets off and letting them die, and that were quite good. As usual, there's quite a good selection of weapons, although I have seen some criticism that some of the weapons aren't futuristic enough. There are laser weapons and things in there, but generally they seem to be a lot like regular sort of ballistic type weapons that you use. I would imagine that they were probably would have to be something like electromagnetically driven, because I couldn't imagine you trying to ignite gunpowder in space. But yeah, I guess they seem familiar, and that's okay with me too. I strongly felt like COD has been becoming more and more fantastical, more and more unbelievable. So this one sort of had a level of grounding around it, which was quite good. The one technological piece of equipment that did stretch the realms of imagination a little bit was some of the grenades. Some of the grenades, while they're very useful and they do some ever wacky things, you just sort of go, well, how would that work? They have a grenade that you toss out that creates instant cover, sort of a pop-up foam wall type thing. Sure, I could see that working with expanding foam. How you get that much expanding foam to produce a wall that big into a tiny little grenade, I do not know, but I guess it's a game, not reality. So one thing I really did like was the progression across the Retribution, your ship. It was quite cool to have it wrecked at the beginning, go through various missions, and as you come back, the crew members are hard at work, they're repairing things, the ship gradually becomes more functional, panels are repaired. It was just neat, it gave a nice feel. I did find though that the ship was a little bit limited. I have found in the previous games that the game hub, or the location that you return to and choose your mission, your weapons and whatever, sometimes they felt a little bit more expansive than some of the other entries. In this one there wasn't a lot of rooms. There's basically the weapons locker, sort of a newscast type thing that just plays CNN or whatever their space equivalent is non-stop, and the bridge where you choose your missions, and the captain's ready room where you can look through a computer or look on a notice board where you've got photos of guys that you've killed or are still hunting for. There were really things like the medal case, and that was missing, the trophies. There's no intel in this one, like in previous games we've had to collect the intel while you're on the missions as well. I did kind of like that that wasn't in the game, because it meant it wasn't distracting and I wasn't spending all my time hunting for things while I'm getting killed. It just let me focus on the mission at hand, and that's okay. But it would have been nice if there was, I don't know, some other things, or even if you can just collect souvenirs, just to feel like you personalised your room as the missions went on. That would have been really cool. So on to the thing that most people play the game for. A lot of people don't even play the single player campaign, it's more about the multiplayer. And the multiplayer, as always, is excellent. This is probably one of the better entries. I personally don't really like multiplayer all that much. I really don't enjoy being killed, resurrecting, being killed, resurrecting, being killed. It's just not a lot of fun for me. But I actually found this quite enjoyable. I think it means that the balance in this one was a lot better. Some of the previous systems, they really punish you if you don't get in on day one and you're not massively powered up and massively leveled up. But I found this one was quite good so far. And the weapons and things like that seem quite well balanced and comparable to each other. So you're never really stuck behind the 8-ball so much, which is good. As usual, there's quite a lot of customization around your character. You can customize your loadout and various looks and skins and all that sort of thing. Doubtless there'll be stuff in the season pack, expanding maps and things like that. So I have no idea what's on offer at this point, but I guess we'll review those in the future as they become available. The other offering that everybody always goes nuts for is zombies. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with zombies. Some of them I really liked, some of them I just hate. Generally I find it's just too hard. I mean, it's ridiculously punishing, and there's not a lot of enjoyment in being punished so mercilessly that you can barely enjoy playing the game. But this one's quite good. It's got an 80s sort of theme park type thing, horror survival thing, where you've got a selection of teenagers that you play as. I would have liked to have been able to choose who I wanted to be. It seems they're randomly assigned, which sort of makes for an interesting beginning where, you know, if you're playing with someone else, you're all trying to figure out who the hell you are at the beginning. But it would have been nice to choose. There's quite a good location, a range of locations as you go around the different rides in the theme park, and sort of different themed areas. We never found that it was overly restrictive in giving us enough resource to open areas up. I have found in some of the previous zombie installments that you just never seem to get enough money to get the door open, to get your gun, to get your ammo, to get, and progress to the next area. This one seems quite good so far, and I never really had any problems getting up to level 10 and beyond that. So yeah, it was pretty good. There's a range of unusual collectibles as well, which are quite fun. One of the sort of, I guess, slightly baffling things is that they don't really explain any of them, and some of them do bizarre things, but I guess that's part of the exploration of them, is figuring it out. For instance, you can collect some jelly beans. I don't really know what they're for. Some things you seem to collect because they open something else later or combine into something else or whatever, but apparently if you shoot the jelly beans, they create a flaming barrier that keeps the zombies away for a while. So, who knew? I guess you just got to try these things and figure them out. I'm sure in time enough people will have played it and figured out what they are, and it'll be all over the internet. We'll have a clear idea of what we're actually supposed to do.
I hope this is enough.
Just 2 more and you've got yourself a prize.
Your fate and your fortune lies within the palm of your hand.
I do fancy myself a bit of a blacksmith. It's like building a fort. Let's hope this works.
Just 1 more souvenir coin and we've got a prize for you.
can't hurt me, right?
So, one particularly vexing issue that I did have with the game, and I think this is something that's becoming quite common now with AAA titles, they push them for the release date and they ship them without them being functional or with problems, and sort of fix it afterwards. I did find it was a bit frustrating to install the game and then have to wait the following day because our Australian internet is so slow while it downloaded the 6 gig patch that needed to be applied. That was a little bit frustrating. I know there have also been some other issues that I've had during the game. One mission in particular, I just couldn't play at all. It was the Uranus mission. I believe it's the one where you're trying to destroy the chemical weapons. Every time I deployed at the beginning in my Raptor, I would fly towards the battleship and the screen would go all screwy, and when I would move, it was kind of like my guy was rotating in the cockpit or spinning around, but everything else just stayed fixed and basically was unplayable. That elicited a brief panic because I figured I'm going to have to restart the entire game proper because my save file is now stuffed. I kept trying to revert to checkpoints and things, and it just wouldn't. It just put me back at the beginning of this mission. In the end, I figured out I could go back to the mission select menu and choose to go back to the last completed mission, which fortunately put me back on the carrier. So that resolved that. There have been a number of other patches since. There was a multiplayer patch today which installed. So I'm glad they're fixing it, but by the same token, when I'm paying this kind of money for a game, I really want it to be schmick from the get-go, or at least pretty damn close to schmick. So let's hope they work on that for the future.
Ready to fire.
Copy! Enemy reinforcements! Take them out! We're about halfway to the tower.
So, in conclusion, is it a good game? Yes, it is. I think it's a very good installment of COD. You know, I understand people's frustration that it's future again and they're tired of it and all that. I totally get that, totally hear you. Don't disagree at all. Like I said, I think it would be a good option if maybe they started to alternate and did something different. I personally would quite like to see a World War I, World War II game, or possibly even a Vietnam one. I don't think that was something they ever really went overly in depth on. And I'm sure there are possibly other wars or conflicts that they could do that would also be quite good. But this, I think, is an excellent installment. I wouldn't mind seeing another one, although without spoiling it, I'd like to see how they're planning to continue it, but finish the game and find out. I wouldn't mind another installment, but yeah, I just think maybe just alternate year to year and, you know, shake it up, do something different. Or perhaps don't do one every year, maybe every other year. Build a bit of a hunger again for the franchise. But I definitely think you should check it out. Whether or not you want to pay extra and get the remastered previous COD is up to you. I personally didn't. I've played the old COD. I've got the old COD on my 360 still, and I still have the 360 as well. Sure, having it look pretty would be nice, but I've played it enough times. I really didn't feel like I needed to chill out for it again. So I can understand there are some people that will want to play it again. Maybe they just want it to complete their collection or whatever. And I think it would have been nice if they'd maybe maybe separated that product. But to date, I haven't seen it available separately here. So anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this review. If you found it interesting and it was of use to you, please smash the subscribe button below and like the video. I'm hoping to produce some more gaming videos as well, so feel free to leave some comments below and let me know if there's something you'd like to see, or you just want to talk about this game, or whatever you'd like. Alright, thanks for watching, bye!